So here's the thing about real life. It tends to be lived here in the real world, not the realm of abstractions or hypotheticals or maybes or neat and tidy systems where everything always goes according to plan and fits inside strictures, but the real messy world where things are complicated and where sometimes you feel like you don't have 100% rule, but you have a rule of thumb that is sort of well, most of the time it goes like this. Or sometimes you think about you want to pass on to your children or to the generations that will come after you helpful counsel that maybe isn't like 100% all the time this is how it is, but I found this to be a helpful guardrail in my life so that they don't feel like they're facing the world just making it up as they go. That's just it. Real life is lived, maybe you could say, in this messy in-between space, between rigid, ironclad rules that are always applicable and always hold and are always true, and on the other hand, having no guardrails and you're just constantly making things up as you go. Real life is a lot more messy in between. What are the tools we have for living in that space? It turns out the scriptures are actually really helpful in giving us material for living real life and real world situations without pretending here's 100% rules that will always be followable and you'll always have guidance, but also aren't just you're on your own to make it up. That's the realm of what we often call wisdom literature, especially as it's found in the Hebrew Bible in the Old Testament. We're going to be starting a new series this fall on our Thursday Bible study series that is sort of a sampler. Sort of think of it sort of a charcuterie board of the wisdom literature of the Hebrew Bible. And we're going to take a look at how different voices offer real life, practical, boots on the ground kind of insights for living our actual lived lives in a messy world. Sometimes that wisdom is helpful little bite-sized sayings or rules of thumb that are found, for example, in the book of Proverbs, that really is just a collection of helpful insights that don't pretend they are 100% of the time rules, but are more, this is a helpful guideline, right? Here's how you know that the Proverbs aren't meant to be taken as ironclad promises. Sometimes they contradict each other and point in different directions. A case in point, there's a famous proverb, you should correct a fool in their folly. In other words, like if someone's making a mistake, you should let them know about it because otherwise how will they improve? Right beside it is another proverb that says, don't bother correcting a fool in their folly because they'll never learn and they won't listen. Well, which is it? Well, in real life, sometimes both are true, right? Sometimes correcting somebody else feels like that was a waste of my energy and effort. They weren't going to listen. And other times it feels like what this person really needed was someone to help say, hey, did you notice this mistake? And maybe they're put back on track. The book of Proverbs is helpful because it's honest. It's a collection of rules of thumb. Most are easy to remember, most are bite-sized and memorable, and you can take them with you and have sort of a helpful rules for the road, guidelines for how to face the world. And they come like they are road tested by the generations of people who've gone before. At the center of the book of Proverbs, if there's a recurring theme, it's that wisdom, sort of knowing how to navigate life, really is the most important skill or thing to acquire in life, more than money or status or prosperity, and that the heart of wisdom is seeking after God, is what's sometimes called the fear of the Lord, right? Which isn't meant to be, I'm afraid of God, but I live my life in constant awareness and awe, sort of like I'm constantly with my feet on the edge of the Grand Canyon, right? I can take in the beauty, but also watch where I walk. Something like that is at the heart of the book of Proverbs, and then it also spills out in a bunch of different directions and situations. How do I deal with my friends? Is it worth it being a stand-up, upright business person, or is it okay to cheat? How should I treat my enemies? All sorts of situations that the book of Proverbs speaks to. And again, it doesn't present itself as these are promises you can take to the bank. They're always 100% true, no conditions, no exceptions, but more, these are helpful rules of thumb because that's how life is in the messy, real world. A couple other books we'll take a look at over the course of this series. We'll ask big picture questions like, if God's good and God is real, why do terrible things happen in the world? And how do I make sense of suffering that happens to me or somebody I care about? We'll explore that in depth in the book of Job. Another book that feels sort of like it's ripped from the pages of a 20th century existentialist philosophy book is the book we call Ecclesiastes, sometimes called Kohelet by its Hebrew name. And it's written as sort of this treatise that says all the things we spend our energy chasing after, money and fame and status and pleasure, none of them last. Even the things we think are noble and good, leaving a legacy and being well known and a good name, you can't count on those. Instead, life has to be received differently, like a breath, like a vapor, like something that is meant to be held and then let go of. That's a very, very different perspective than what's often popular out there in conventional wisdom. We'll also take a look at the very, very real, messy, ordinary, real world situations of romantic love, and a whole book of romantic love poetry called Song of Solomon, which is maybe less useful for how do I navigate raising my kids or owning my business, but also does my life and love and relationship with other people, is that something that I have to be ashamed of or hide from God? Or is that something that is maybe also to be celebrated and savored as part of God's gift in this messy world? Throughout these coming weeks, we're going to invite you to explore these different voices of wisdom literature, take what they have to offer. And again, like I say, treat it like a charcuterie board. Some of these voices you're going to find really helpful and you'll think, oh, I'm going to keep coming back to this all the time. Others you'll go, that's an acquired taste. I can only have small servings of that. And others you'll find just interesting companions for living life in this messy world. We invite you to be a part of it coming on Thursday, starting at 1 o'clock this week here at Community of Christ. See you then.